Hello there, I'm Media Lord, and welcome to my series talking about Doctor Who, where I plan to cover every episode of the show to talk about a particular subject related to the story, and the story I'm discussing today is the Doctor Who TV movie. So, if you're ready, let's get started, shall we? A cardiologist who used to work for Walker General Hospital in San Francisco before they tried to cover up the doctor's death and subsequent disappearance. Grace's life changed forever when she discovered that her patient was a Time Lord with two hearts and the ability to regenerate into a new body. Helping him stop the Master from stealing the rest of his lives and destroying Earth, Grace was invited to join him on his adventures in time and space. But she turned him down, and she's never returned after her appearance in the Doctor Who TV movie 30 years ago, which is what I'd like to talk about today as I explain the reason why. After 695 episodes across 26 seasons and 7 Doctors, Doctor Who was unceremoniously cancelled by the BBC. However, they insisted that the show was simply being rested and would return at some point in the future. Producer Philip Segal expressed an interest as early as 1989 in producing a new series that would be an American co-production, but he wasn't able to acquire the rights to Doctor Who until he went to work for Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment. Several hoops had to be jumped through before the cameras started rolling, as there were several parties involved in the discussions, from the BBC to Universal Pictures, and they were all trying to protect their own interests. Ultimately, Fox was the only American network interested in the project, but they were only willing to commit to a 2-hour movie that would act as a backdoor pilot for a potential series, if it proved successful enough. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, the Doctor Who TV movie failed to meet Fox's expectations, as it received 5.6 million viewers, a total 9% share of the audience, after going up against the sitcom Roseanne. It was a different story in the UK, as 9.1 million people tuned in to watch the Doctor's latest adventure, despite the movie being released on VHS a few days earlier. There was clearly an appetite for more Doctor Who, but the right people hadn't climbed the career ladder far enough to reach positions of power, and the BBC weren't convinced to fork out tons of money for what was perceived as a relic of a bygone age. Once fans became part of the BBC's hierarchy and began pushing for a revival, they encountered a bunch of legal issues thanks to the TV movie being a co-production between Universal Pictures, the BBC and Fox. There was confusion over who had the rights to Doctor Who, whether they could make it or not, and what format it should be. Thanks for making it this far. You probably guessed this is where I ask you to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video. I've also got a Patreon and Ko-fi page for those of you interested in either making a donation or joining a membership to support the channel for early access, shoutouts, etc. Right. Now I've got that call to action done and dusted, let's carry on with the video. Ultimately, it's legal issues that have prevented Daphne Ashbrook from ever reprising her role as Grace, because Universal Pictures own the rights to her character. Unlike the 8th Doctor, who is the latest incarnation of a pre-existing character, Grace was first introduced in the TV movie, so Universal gets to decide how and when she's used. This is similar, but altogether different to Sony, having ownership of Spider-Man and his Rogues Gallery. They've been able to make over $9 billion off the web crawlers movies alone, whereas Universal have kept Grace in limbo because there's no incentive for them to use her. K9 proved that these characters can't exist outside of the vacuum of Doctor Who, and without the Doctor, Grace is just a cardiologist you'll find in any medical drama, so it's not much of a surprise that the BBC were able to successfully negotiate for her to appear in books and comics. Considering how Grace's story ended, it isn't necessary for her to return, which might explain why the BBC haven't made more of a concerted effort to buy the rights back. However, it was the original plan for her to return for the series, so it would be nice if some sort of deal was made that would allow Daphne Ashbrook the chance to reprise her role as Grace. She hasn't been afforded the same opportunity as Paul McGann, who's been able to redefine his legacy and have his own adventures through Big Finish. He is undoubtedly a Doctor with his own bona fide era, whereas Grace is just a footnote in history, the living embodiment of a what if, and that doesn't sit right with me. I've always admired Big Finish for their reputation of righting the wrongs of the past and changing public perceptions, although I've never listened to their audio dramas. If the rights to Grace are resolved, I imagine she'll return in Big Finish rather than the main show, as she's a rather niche companion who only the die-hard fans would be familiar with, and she's better suited with 8 because she didn't spend enough time with him for their reunion to be as meaningful if he had a different face. But what do you guys think? Would you want Grace to return to Doctor Who, or is she better off left in 1996? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Media Lord. Until next time, goodbye.